Daniel Penny, out celebrating right now. I don't know if you've seen the video of him in the bar, but he's out having a good time right now. And you know what? This kid has a lot to celebrate. Former Marine that took it upon himself, because you know what? These idiots in New York City, they won't control the streets. They won't do their jobs. The police officers are afraid to do so, frankly, because you know what's going to happen to them? They're going to get in trouble because, oh no, you can't go after that person because that person has this minority thing going for him, or, you know, suffering from mental illness, or this, that, and the other. What about the rest of the population? What about everybody else on that subway? Well, one Daniel Penny had to take things into his own arms to save people from this Jordan Neely who was mentally deranged, schizophrenic, on all kinds of substances, and then he winds up the one in trouble for that? How do you think that's right? It's not right. And thank God we're seeing some justice here. Thank goodness. So this is the upshot. Today, we found out that he is not guilty. Think about this. And by the way, it was a New York City jury. So you know how crazy this case had to be. The case never should have been brought in the first place, as one Jonathan Turley, who is a well-known law professor, was telling Fox News earlier today. I want to show you this clip.
But it's an extraordinary moment. It took too long. It should never have happened. This case, in my view, should never have been brought. And I don't think that even Alvin Bragg would try to get around double jeopardy in this case. I think it would be absurd. They just acquitted him on the lesser crime. Double jeopardy cases are often argued back and forth by prosecutors. But even in New York, I think that would be a ludicrous step to take. And so he is very likely out of this. He is facing a civil case. It's an interesting situation because he was just acquitted under a quasi-criminal negligence standard. He's now going to be forced into a civil case with a lower standard of proof. But still, he was able to beat the lower standard on the criminal side. So we'll have to watch how this goes forward. But he should never have been put through this in the first place.
No, he never should have been put through that. But you know what? You had a rabid DA. You had a rabid Alvin Bragg, who was all about Black Lives Matter. We're going to keep Black Lives Matter happy. And so we're going to take this case forward, even though this was a good Samaritan doing what he could to protect the other individuals on that train. It's scary in New York City right now. And you know what? When law enforcement abandons you, good luck. What do you get then? Well, I'll tell you. It should not have been brought. And I'm not a legal scholar, but I can tell you it shouldn't have been brought. And the fact that this returned a not guilty verdict tells you a lot, especially in New York City. Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz, the famed attorney, constitutional law scholar, criminal defense attorney out of Harvard University, on Newsmax earlier today, saying that Alvin Bragg is an absolute disgrace. He needs to go. He needs to be fired immediately. He must resign. Here's his analysis. I want to play it for you.
Sir, did you want to start off with just the immediate reaction to the not guilty verdict in the Daniel Penny case?
I have to admit I was a little surprised. Having hung on the higher count, I was not expecting that they would so quickly acquit on the lower count. It probably shows that there were only one or two people in the original high count that hung based on their desire to see a conviction. So I think it's a good thing. Now, I think the next step has to be the removal of Alvin Bragg from the role of district attorney. He is a disgrace to the office. The two cases he brought should never have been brought. The case against Donald Trump, which was made up out of whole cloth, which to my mind involves unethical, unprofessional conduct by Bragg, and also this case, which should never have been brought either. He brought it only because of the racial component to the case and because of pressures from Black Lives Matter and other groups on the outside, both white and black radicals who wanted these cases to be brought, wanted this case to be brought, and who are going to continue to complain, even though there were obviously black members of the jury who voted to acquit as well.
Professor, what do you make of how quickly they came back with this verdict? And also, too, there's the civil case that he's also facing, too, Daniel Penny. Does that, given that he's not guilty on the criminal case, what happens to the civil case as well?
It'll be thrown out. There's no case there. Civilly, the only thing that will happen is that Penny will get an enormous amount of discovery. and we'll get much more information that we don't now have about the alleged victim in the case. So my prediction is it will be withdrawn. I don't think they'll go any further. I don't think they'll get any kind of a verdict. Now, maybe the city will settle if they sue the city as well. If I were the lawyers for the alleged victim, I'd probably think I'd have a better shot of getting some money from the city, which was sympathetic, obviously, to the victim, than from a poor former Marine who probably doesn't have a lot of money. So I don't think the civil case is going anywhere. This is not O.J. Simpson, where the civil case won after the criminal case lost. There was no case here to bring it all, either civil or criminal.
Boom. Okay. Enough said. Enough said. Nothing ever should have been brought. I want to bring you one more. Let's see if we can get to this. You can see one of the people here having a few things to say. This is a Black Lives Matter member of Black Lives Matter, very, very upset, obviously, at what just went down. I want to bring you this sound also just coming in. Here we go.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
My gosh. Okay, so you're going to hear a lot of this. This is the attitude right now. So I think a lot of communities are on standby tonight, but you're going to have a tough time. I mean, it's not like the guy had schizophrenia. He had K2 in his system. He had a life in and out of jail, a life of crime. Here's his father saying it's the system's fault. What about the poor people riding on the subway that were terrified for their lives? What about them? Don't they matter? Don't we care about the rest of society? Are we going to bend over backwards for these crazy people that belong in institutions or in jail? Here's it down.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Let's do something about it. Too often, we have Eric Garner's mother here. There's too often this is happening where we're left alone in this society. We got to stop that. We have to change how we impact each other. Jordan came on that subway car. The first thing he asked for was food, and he was killed. And the person who killed him was not held responsible. We cannot allow this to keep happening.
Okay, I want to go now to Eric Adams. Eric Adams, who is the mayor, of course, of New York, increasingly sounding like a conservative. He's a former cop, by the way. He's trying to get the city under control. Good luck. I mean, he's in all kinds of trouble because he's spoken up about migrants. They got 60,000 known criminal migrants in the city of New York right now out of nearly 700,000 illegal migrants. He's just cut off the $350 a week that they were giving everyone. I want you to listen to Eric Adams talking about this case before the decision came out. Here we go.
Look at that on a multi-faceted approach of everything that's wrong with the system that we're facing. One, look at the photo that they used to show the victims. It seemed like it was a young, innocent child who was brutally murdered, and it gave that impression. When you looked at the photo that was being used, it wanted to set up in the minds of people that we were dealing with a young, innocent child that, just a Michael Jackson intimidator that, was just brutally assaulted. Then you look at the complete failure of our mental health system, a complete failure. From the days of closing psychiatric wards and having those who needed help just turned over into the street without giving any safety net to accept them. Parents reach out to me all the time and say, I'm watching my child go down, or my loved one, my family member going down this serious decline. What do we do? A system where you brought people into hospitals, gave them medicine for one day, and sent them back. The young man in this case was going within our system, throughout the revolving door of our system. Now, we're on the subway where we're hearing someone talking about hurting people, killing people. You have someone on that subway who was responding, doing what we should have done as a city in a state of having a mental health facility. Those passengers were afraid. I'm hoping that the jury will hear all the facts. Based on all the facts that's laid out, a jury of his peers would make the right decision. And I don't want to prejudge that. I'm just looking at all the facts that are involved here and what we did to get to where we are and what we're seeing. Because that could have easily been a case where you saw 3 innocent people murdered on our street 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so in other words, the point is, New York City, you got to do a better job securing your streets. You shouldn't be putting it into the hands of a former Marine who's trying to be a good Samaritan, and then you try and bust him, and then you get the Black Lives Matter community calling for some kind of riot or something because it didn't turn out the way they wanted. Wrong. Okay? Let's get over all that. Can we be a colorblind society again? Please? And just accept that, if you're acting like a crazy person, you're intimidating people on the subway, that's not going to be tolerated. But by the way, we need the police officers on the darn platforms. How many accidents have happened this year and last year? I mean, crime is way up, increasingly on the subway, by the way, in New York City. So he was found not guilty. Finally, some justice. Not guilty. And I'm just going to say, as we listened to Eric Adams, that came out, of course, before the not guilty ruling, but he's looking at becoming a Republican again. It's like, hey, you know what? Join the club of the sane people over here, because you need some sanity.